Hello, my name is Doug Leasure. I want to thank you for joining me for another training session for Active Planner. And one of the things we want to talk about today would be database query formulas. So the first thing I want to do is let you know that if you go to my Active Planner training website, which is sites.google.com/site/Active Planner Training, all one word. And we'll bring you to this page for the Active Planner Training. If we go to the resources, you can see under the resources I have a variety of documents and other things listed here, resources available for your use. And the one we're going to use is this one called the Active Planner Database Query Formulas. If we take a quick look at that particular document, we can see that the document covers a variety of things, all related to database query formulas. And what we're going to focus on today is part one, the basics, which you'll see we also have a few different things that are covered in this document, using Excel as your data source, column dates, the case statement and switch functions, also using case statements to mimic the if logic in your global formulas. But what we're going to cover right now would be the basics. So let's go on and take a look at that. Okay, so we are in Active Planner, and the intent here is to create a new plan sheet that we'll use for our database query formulas and testing. Now, the thing that I think is important as I'm working with various databases and various data is if I have some idea what the data looks like, how it's laid out, it helps me to understand where we're headed with the whole thing and how to get there. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to use for our source data, which is the Microsoft Access demonstration data. And so this ships with Active Planner, the demo data in Microsoft Access. And so one of the tables we're going to be looking at for our training today is the payroll table with employee information. So let's just open that up and take a quick look at that. And if we look at it, we can see that it has the various fields listed in here: the person ID, the supervisor's ID, a position ID, and then a location and department. And the location and department is the same numbering as we see in our general ledger. Segment 2 and segment 3 represent the location and department, and it matches what we've laid out in this table. The other thing we can see is a column or a field for the last annualized increase, so their annual salary, as well as birth date, first name and last name, etc. Okay, so this gives us an idea of what the data looks like, and what we will be doing in our training today is using the location and department to return the total annualized salaries and for all of the employees within the designated location department combination. So that's where we're going with everything, and that's what the data looks like. So let's take a look at how we would do that in Active Planner. So the first thing we want to do is to come here to our Active Planner, and let's go ahead and create a brand new plan sheet that we'll use for our testing. So we'll just do a new plan sheet, and we'll call this database query. So that'll be the sheet name. And then we'll go ahead and open that up. And we'll go ahead and create the columns that we need for this. And it doesn't matter too much because of the work that we're doing, so let's go ahead and just choose to use our current year budget and a year-to-date total. Okay, so now that we have the sheet created, let's go ahead and add a couple of rows. And so the idea here is simply that we would want to use our one of our account numbers as the indicator on the row that we are planning to return the salaries for the first segment, natural number 6,000 represents our salaries. And so what we want to do is go query our source to return the salaries then for location 100, department 200. And we'll bring that back into our budget columns. So let's take a look at how we would do that. So to begin with, we're going to create a new calculation for our budget column, and this will be a formula type. And let's go ahead and take a look at the properties of that. We're going to create a brand new one. It will be a global formula. And what we'll do is give it a name. This will be get salary. And so we're going to give it a description as well. Get salary by location, department. Now the formula type is going to be database. And that gives us the database button here that we can click on here under parameter 1, where we can actually define the source of our database query, as well as the proper methodology, syntax, if you will, for doing for querying that data source. So I said what we're going to use is our demo data, our Microsoft Access demo data. So under data source, we're going to simply choose Access as the data source. And now we're going to use the ellipse to tell it where the file, the Microsoft Access file, is located. And so we can browse in our local or network drives and point to the demonstration data. And then we can use the test connection just to validate that we have the connection working. It doesn't validate that we're returning the right data, just simply that we have connectivity to the underlying data source. And now we go to the Query Builder tab. And this is where we can begin to build the query that we need to bring back the data from that data source. So the first thing you'll notice here is that it shows us the list of available tables. So within that Microsoft Access database, we have a lot of different tables. And so we want to jump down to the PR tables. And as we saw before, there was a table there, PR employees, that contains the employee information that we want to query. So when I click on the available table, you'll notice that it populates then the list of available fields based on the fields that exist within that particular table. So what we want to do is we want to select one of the fields from this table. And so as we saw when we were looking at the Access database before, the last annualized pay rate is the field that we want to select, so that contains our salary for the individuals. So if I double click on that, you can see that it automatically fills in the select and this field name from this table. So just double clicking on it, it begins to build the query that we need. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the results of this simple query that we've built so far. So what I'm going to do is use the test query. So we want to make sure that we have the three items here checkmarked: show query, show parse query, show execute the query, and then show the entire query result. So when we click on the button to test the query, it pops up a little query test form that allows us to enter some values that will be passed into our query. So we'll get around to using this in just a little while, but for right now, let's just click OK. The next thing it does is going to show us the query that's being passed over to our data source. And we'll click OK here, and now it actually executes that select statement and shows us here the result of that select statement. So the most important thing I need you to understand when you're creating these queries is that the result, the desired result, is to return one single value. And And if you take a look at our results here, we have lots of values returned. Yes, this is the employee's annual salary, which is correct, but I have lots and lots and lots of values being returned. In fact, one for every employee in the source data. And so what we need to do next is to limit the data that's being returned to just the data that we care about. And so what we want to do next is take a look at creating what's called the where clause, which is the way you limit the data being returned from the data source. So if we go down here to the where clause, if you remember what we typed in our row, we typed in location 100, department 200. So let's build a where clause that will limit our data to just that location, that department. So if we look at our available fields, one of the things we have is a location field. So here I'm in the where row. I'm going to double click on location. So what we're doing is where the location is equal to, so double click on the equal sign, and I'm going to type in 100. Now I'm putting single quotes around these because in our Access database, those particular fields, the location field and the department field, those are actually text fields. And so we need to match the same type of field type. So if our field is text, we enter text. Okay, that's one piece of it. And there's another piece. So I'm going to type the word and. And it's also, we want to limit it to where the department is equal to 200. So let's go ahead and test this. And we'll see that the select statement says select our annualized pay rate from this PR employees table, where the location equals 100, and where the department equals 200. And if we take a look at that result there, we see a much, much shorter result. So now it's simply listing one result for every employee within location 100, department 200. So we're almost there, very close. The next thing we need to do is to aggregate or to summarize all of these annual salaries into a single result. Because what we're trying to do here is just simply to bring back the total salaries for all employees within this location department. So one more small adjustment here and we'll be there. So what we want to do is we want to go back to our initial item that we're selecting, the annualized pay rate, and we want this to be summarized all together. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use a function, the sum function, very similar to what you've seen in Excel. And this will just simply add all of those matching records together and give us one single number, the total or the sum of all of the salaries. So let's test that real quick. And now you'll see that it returns a single result, giving us actually the desired results that we're looking for. So this is great. Let's go ahead and save this. And it is a global formula. We'll save that, and we'll apply it to our row. And now you can see that as we recalculate this, as we refresh the calculation here, we will get the total annual salary. Okay, a couple of things we want to look at. One is if we wanted to bring this salary back to every budget column, okay, right now it's going to bring back an annual salary. So we will go back into our query and modify it to make an adjustment here so that it takes that annual salary and divides by 12. Simple adjustment. You'll see how easy that is. The other thing we want to think about, though, is what if I'm doing this for other location department combinations? How would we make an adjustment to our query to allow it to work for that? So one of the things we want to look at is if we had other accounts here, natural account 6,000, but for department 100, location 100, department 300. And if we do the same thing for location 400, department 300, okay, we would like the same calculation to work with other location department combinations, and we want it to be a global form that we can use on other plan sheets. So let's, if we take a look at what we have so far, remember we hard-coded location 100, department 200. So if we use the same formula, we can see that effectively it's ignoring the account number because it's hard-coded to look only for location 100, department 200. So let's take a look at how we can add some variability into our formula. And again, the goal is for us to be able to use segment 1 and segment 2 as variables or parameters in our query. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at making those modifications. It should be fairly simple and easy, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go back into our calculation. I'm going to go to the properties of our calculation where we can edit it. Click on the database query. Let's go ahead and do the test again just to make sure we still have connectivity to the underlying data. So the first thing we want to do is take a look at dividing our result by 12. So let's just do that real quick. We'll go ahead and do a quick test. And so now what we get is 1/12 of the annual salary. And that then will be correct to apply that to all 12 budget columns. So that's the first thing, very easy to do. Okay, so the next thing we need to take a look at then is adding the variability to our where clause. So if we are on row 1, we want the location to be equal to whatever is in segment 2, and the department equal to whatever is in segment 3. So let me just show you how we do that. So first of all, let's come back here to the location portion. And what we're going to do is we're going to say where the location is equal to. And now we come over here to our variables column. And as we work our way down through here, we see we have a lot of different variables. The one we care about is the account segment. And so we're going to double click on this option here, account segment. And it's going to give us the option to specify which segment. Remember I said location is segment 2. So here I'm going to just simply select from here segment number 2. So what we're going to do in our where clause is we're going to take whatever was typed in segment number 2 and pass that into our where clause and match the location. So let's just do a similar thing for department, which should be segment number 3. So double click over here, set it to segment number 3. And now let's test it. So when we do the test, remember, we can pass in some predefined variables or values that will be used in our variables to make sure that we're doing the correct, that we've set up our variables correctly and are returning the right data that we care about. So if we want to match what we've done before and see the exact same results, we'll need to change our account number here to be 6,100, 200. And so it will pass into the location portion, the value 100, and to the department, we'll pass in the value 200. In fact, when we look at our query display, we can see here that that's based on the variables. It's going to replace here in our where clause, our statement, our select statement here, is going to replace the variable with the value that we typed in the account number. So we can see how it's working, what values it's going to pass into our select statement. And now we can confirm that we're getting the exact results that we expected. Okay, so let's just simply save this. Save the global formula. And now if we recalculate these values, we'll see that we're getting 1/12 of the annual salary for location 100, department 200, for location 100, department 300, and for location 400, department 300. And so our database query is now working correctly. It's a global formula that can be applied to many different rows in this plan sheet or many different plan sheets. All right, well, those are the things that I wanted to talk about and cover related to the basics of creating a database query formula. Thank you, and I'll look forward to working with you on future training videos, especially as we dig into some of the other details of database querying. Thank you.